every thought you have is a magical lie.
How do we live a life with zero physical or mental weakness?
Loneliness comes from the fear of the ego self. Only do the things that you love.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a living legend in the house with us today, Mr. Deepak Chopra. How you doing, man?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm great. There's so many things to talk about in a limited amount of time. We've got your Fitbit partnership. You've got your 91st book, Total Meditation, your Chopra meditation app. Something I see it there on your desk, I guess, there, the Total Meditation, amazing. Where I want to actually lead off is, and for anybody who wants your projects, we're going to link it up in the description below. So guys, go check that out. I was speaking to somebody in my community yesterday named Patricia, who's a huge fan of yours. She listens to you every morning. She has your meditation on in her ears. She loves your calm, soothing voice. And she starts her day every day with a Deepak Chopra meditation. And I asked her, hey, I'm talking to him tomorrow. If you have one question for Deepak Chopra, what would it be? And her question was, what brings you to your place of strength and peace at the same time?
What brings me to a place of strength and peace is I don't believe the lies of the mind. Every thought you have is a magical lie. It's an interpretation of a perceptual experience which is radically untrue. So, for example, my perception tells me the earth is flat. Nobody believes that anymore. My perception tells me that the ground I'm sitting on is stationary, and I know it's spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. My perception tells me that I'm looking at your body, but actually I'm not. It's a perceptual activity in myself. So a while ago, I decided not to believe my mind. And what I do is step back from the mind and watch it. And I notice that there's me watching it. And what is me watching it? It's watching the body, it's watching my thoughts, it's watching you, it's watching everything else. So stand in front of a mirror, and the mirror reflects everything, not just you, but everything else that's happening. And if you understand that the entire world is a mirror of you, filtered through the crazy mind, then you don't depend on the mind. You depend on the awareness of the mind. So when I see a situation, whatever it is, good, bad, or whatever, I ask myself, who's watching? And then I pay attention to the watcher, and I stay there, and it's profoundly peaceful and joyful at all times.
How do we make that an intentional practice so that we don't have our instant reaction to freak out or stress out, or how do we go from making it that instant reaction to an intentional practice?
Well, a lot of people say, I want to quieten my mind, and then they struggle in meditation, but trying to quieten the mind is a thought. So it's also the mind. So you can't use the mind to quieten the mind, right? All you have to do is ask yourself, what am I aware of right now? And then favor the awareness instead of the experience, because the experience is a projection of the mind. Awareness is independent. Awareness is infinite possibilities. It's limitless. It's beyond imagination. It's infinite. It's the real you that recycles as body-mind. People talk about reincarnation, but reincarnation is happening every second. Every thought that you have is a reincarnated thought. Every perception that you have is actually a recycled perception. We just get bamboozled as soon as we're given a name. So, I was given a name, Deepak Chopra. Now, that is a symbol of who I am. It's not who I am. But, if you repeat somebody's name enough, you're David, you're David, you're David, then the poor kid is screwed because he thinks he's David, when in fact he's the infinite being with a name called David. So, you're not your name. Your name is a symbol of who you are. If I'm looking at a menu in a book, and all these beautiful dishes are there. I can't eat the menu. Okay. So we use words as symbols. And of course, spiritual literature says first there was the word, and the word was with God, and God, became the word or whatever. There's some truth in that. As soon as you use words, you create form. So if I asked you, what is this? You'd say it's a book. But actually, it's a color, it's a shape, it's a form. If a baby was looking at this book, it would be squiggles, shapes, forms, and colors. No idea that this is a book and the baby is called David. No idea. It's a joyful experience because the baby would see this and everything else as itself and would fall, in fact, is in love with existence. All you have to look at is a baby. The only time it says, is when it's hungry or it's wet. Otherwise, it's in bliss. And why is it in bliss? Because it hasn't been bamboozled by constructs.
And is that ultimately your mission, is to guide people towards bliss?
Yes, if people could understand the magnificence of who they are, that their fundamental state is bliss and joy and awareness and existence, which is timeless. See, the body is in time, the mind is in time, every thought is in time, every perception is in time, every image you have in your mind is in time, except you, the one that's awareness. So once you get to that, this is what is called the spiritual experience. It's also actually the original religious experience. Whether it's Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha, it doesn't matter. The religious experience is just three things. First, you know yourself beyond body and mind. Second, you have the emergence of Platonic truth, which is goodness, harmony, peace, empathy, compassion, love, kindness, joy. And the third religious experience, not religion, I'm not talking about religious dogma, religious experience, loss of the fear of death. If you have those three things, you know your true self, you have the emergence of what we call Platonic values: truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity, and you lose the fear of death. What left? You're free.
So along those lines, I was watching a video of yours recently called Total Happiness Now. And you had
Yeah.
this line that I had to pause on. And you said, almost everybody gets some infirmity. I'm planning not to. And I didn't know what infirmity meant. So I had to pause the video and go look it up. And it said, at least the dictionary was physical or mental weakness. How do we live a life with zero physical or mental weakness?
You see, it's almost like the world is so fooled by insanity. It's not a measure of sanity to adjust to or become used to insanity. Right now, when I look at the world, I see insanity, climate change, uh, uh, mass migrations with epidemics, racism, bigotry, hatred, prejudice, power mongering, influence peddling, extinction of species, nuclear weapons, other ways of mechanized death, poison in the food chain. I think that's insanity. If you don't think it's insanity, then you're declaring your own insanity. So uh, it's okay to be sane, even if you're the only one in the world. Okay, it's okay to be sane. So right now, everybody says, as you grow old, you get infirm, you get decrepitude, you might get Alzheimer's, you might lose mental capacity, you probably get diabetes, cancer, heart disease. Why do we say that? Because it seems everybody does. Okay, so we say that's the norm. But everybody accepts climate change right now. Almost everybody accepts war. Everybody accepts terrorism. Everybody accepts it's fine to use mechanized death to kill people and other species. Is that true? Is that how it should be? So I come from a tradition, by the way, wisdom traditions, where there's a thing called Mahasamadhi. Maha means big. Samadhi means the big meditation. When you choose, you say, okay, been there, done that. I had a great life. My father did that, by the way. My father was a cardiologist, trained in England. So at the end of his life, he said, I had a great innings. He used to play cricket. So I had a great innings. It's over. So I'm going to say goodbye. And then he closed his eyes and, he actually went to the room where my mother was sleeping, said goodbye to her, went back to his room, sat in bed, closed his eyes, and he was gone. Now, yeah, he probably had a cardiac arrhythmia or something. There has to be something that causes the final exit, right? But as far as I'm concerned, he died in peace and in contentment and without fear. That is called Mahasamadhi. It's a tradition amongst my gurus going back thousands of years. And so, of course, they don't talk about it. They don't care what the world thinks of them. They're not on Twitter or Instagram or doing YouTube videos. They're happy. And, I get that. I get that. I'm 74 right now. My blood pressure is 110/70. My cholesterol is better than anybody who's 40 years of age. My heart rate variability says I have no stress. I enjoy every day a joyful, energetic body, love and compassion in my heart, clear mind, and lightness of being. If you have those four things, there's nothing else you want. Everything else is like crumbs, like what do you call it, dessert, a little bit cherry on the top of the cake. The reality is joy at all times.
How do you know when you're ready for that final meditation? I mean, I look at you, someone who's happy and content and enjoying and in health, and yet also still very much mission driven and so many exciting projects and 91 books and all these things you're still working on. How do you know when you're ready for that final meditation?
Everything I do, by the way, like books and everything, talking to you, is to help people understand that they have this magnificence and bliss within them. So I'm not mission driven. I just shoot the breeze, and people seem to enjoy it. So I shoot some more. It's like somebody singing in the bathroom. People are liking the song. So you say, oh, somebody is liking the song. You sing more. That's it. I'm not mission driven. I think hard work, exacting plans, driving ambition, and focusing on goals all the time is the refuge of the failure. I think if you have joy, everything spontaneously helps you. And actually, if you're not thinking of yourself, you're thinking about others, everybody helps you too. So, they come along and they say, hi, how can I help you?
I love it. It's a big mind twist, at least for a typical kind of North American perspective audience. And so, thank you for sharing that here on my channel. Let's move that towards the Fitbit partnership, because I think it all ties nicely together. So I love Fitbit. I've been a customer for years.
I was wearing one. I just took a shower, so I took it off. But yes,
you've got the watch. This is just a step tracker where I try to get 20 to 40,000 steps a day. Been using this for years, and I was so excited to see Deepak Chopra is partnering with Fitbit. This is crazy. And so, at least from my understanding of it, they've got the watch that then can track all sorts of vitals, but including your stress levels. And so then what happens? If my watch says, hey, Evan, you're stressed out right now, I get an alert that then says, do a Deepak Chopra breathing routine or say this mantra, or like, how do we go from stressed out on my watch to you entering the picture?
So I would rather that you not get an alert. Because that means I'm interfering with, your lifestyle or whatever. If you want to make a change, then you decide to make the change. Now, what the Fitbit does is it gives you your heart rate variability, gives you oxygen saturation, electrodermal activity, breathing rate, core body temperature. In other words, in real time, you have biometrics right there on your wrist. Then you have 33 mindfulness interventions or breathing interventions or other insights from me, Deepak, not me, the guy called Deepak. And then you can use those to actually in real time change your metrics. Now, that's called bioregulation. Okay. biofeedback has been there for a long time. People do biofeedback through electroencephalograms, through cardiac variability, etc. But bioregulation means not only are you getting feedback, but you can regulate your mind and your body, and they're the same thing, by the way. Body and mind is one unit, like mass and energy, like wave and particle, like actuality and potentiality, like space and time. It's one entity. Whatever happens in the mind happens in the brain, body. Whatever happens in the brain reflects back to the mind. They're a correlated activity. For the first time now with Fitbit, by the way, there's no other place where we can do this right now. It's the first. You get to bioregulate your own biology.
It's crazy. So 9 minutes before starting this with you, I went to post a story to my Instagram saying, I'm nervous, I'm freaking out, my heart's beating fast. I hope this interview goes well. I'm sure my Fitbit would be freaking out to say heart rate off the chains. What exercise would you give somebody like me, 15 minutes ago, to do before having to go do that thing that they're nervous about?
So even if you sat down quietly, close your eyes, observed your breath, and took an inhalation to the count of 4, pause to the count of 2, exhale to the count of 6, your breathing rate will come down from 14 to about 8 if you do that for a minute, just 1 minute. If you go a little bit beyond that, once you get comfortable with that, you increase it. So breathe in to 6, pause to breathe out 6. Your brain waves will go from beta to alpha. Alpha is a meditative state. But if you actually become good at this, I can take my brain waves down to theta, which is the dream state. And then if I want, I can actually take it down to 4, the breathing rate with practice, slowly but comfortably. That takes you to delta, which is deep rest, the equivalent of deep sleep. Okay, and you're still awake, of course, but you're rested, the equivalent of deep sleep for that 1 minute. So I would say take a breathing break, or just ask yourself, am I aware? And then shift from the thought to the awareness in which that thought is happening, and notice that awareness and hang in there and you'll be fine immediately.
I love it.
Here's another thing.
Yeah.
I call it the STOP formula, STOP. S stands for stop. T, take 3 deep breaths and smile from your head to your toe, everywhere, your fingernails, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your heart, even your genitalia are smiling. And then observe your body, feel it, and then choose the response you want at that moment. Or you can even make it simpler. Press the pause button, pause, breathe, and choose.
In looking at your work over the past number of decades, you've really been at the front of helping make meditation an everyday thing. I mean, in the 80s, nobody knew about meditation, and now everybody knows what meditation is. Me personally, I think meditation has helped a lot with just mindfulness and presence. Where I struggle with it, and maybe you've got some insight or guidance on this, is get into an altered state where it feels like, hey, I've been doing meditation for 2 hours, but it only feels like 5 minutes. If I sit down for an hour, I'm present, I'm mindful, I'm focused, but it still feels like an hour. Where am I on the meditation journey that I need to make the next breakthrough?
Even if it feels like an hour, if there are moments when you lose track of time, you say, oh, where was I? You were infinite at that moment. So don't try and count the time that you left the arena or the theater of space-time and causality. The easier you are, the more spontaneous it'll be. Not in meditation. When somebody is having a good time, what did they say? I lost track of time. When somebody falls in love, there's no time, right? When you fall in love with anything, even an idea, time goes. You fall in love with a person, with a baby. For that moment, when you are feeling that experience, there's no time. Okay, so that's our essential nature when we are connected with all that is. So when people say I meditate to get away, to unplug, it's actually inaccurate. You meditate to plug. You don't meditate to get away from it all. You get in touch with it all. When solitude is not the same thing as loneliness. Loneliness comes from the fear of the ego self. Solitude is being connected to all that exists. So just make that distinction. Okay, and you'll see. And when you're listening to music, do you think, when is this going to end? Okay, you're listening to a song. Do you ask yourself, when is this song going to end? Or you're dancing, or you're watching a ballerina. Does she think, when am I going to finish? Right? No, because they are in love and they've become what they're doing. So it is never a problem to focus or concentrate, as the word is. I don't like the word concentrate. It gives me a headache just thinking about it. But it is never a problem to focus on something if you love it.
Right.
Okay. So only do the things that you love.
Bringing it back to bliss and do what you love, where does service fit in? Can you just be always blissed out in your own world and not helping others? Because a lot of what you're doing is obviously helping other people with the books and meditation and Fitbit and partnerships and everything you're doing. Can you be totally blissed out in your own world without serving others?
No. In fact, if you think of your own world, you will suffer. Okay, so the wisdom traditions say the following three things to be happy all the time. The following three things. Now I'm going to use the traditional words, but then I'll explain it to you. Okay, so it says, first is take refuge in the Buddha. Buddha is not a guy, it's expanded consciousness. Okay, take refuge in a bigger picture rather than thinking only me and mine. Take refuge in the Sangha. Sangha means the community of fellow beings that you engage with. And last is take refuge in service, or seva, the word in Sanskrit. So service, community, and shared vision. Now, I have found as a doctor, I still have a license in Massachusetts and California, now in New York and Florida. I'm getting a license just to keep my credentials. But when I had difficult patients, in the past, Google this, that, look at all the books. Everybody knows everything, right? But how do I treat this one patient? I used to get everybody who's not in my specialty. I'm an internist, endocrinologist, but I used to get generalists, gastroenterologists, oncologists all together in the room. Say, shared vision, we want to cure this patient. Emotional bonding, we all care about this patient together. Complementing strengths, let's give each of us our opinion on what's the best treatment. Soon we had a solution. Okay, and I realized this is actually the future, which we call emergence, shared vision, emotional and spiritual bonding, complementing each other's strengths, holding each other's back, and service, and you're all set.
I love it. Well, listen, I took a quick look at the clock and realized we've been talking, we're almost at our time, but it's only felt like 5 minutes. So thank you for this meditation. Guys, Total Meditation is a book, his 91st book. We'll link it up below. Fitbit partnership, we'll link that up, and the Chopra meditation app as well. Deepak, again, thank you for the time. For anybody who, just a final message, who are trying to find their bliss, who resonate with what you're saying, what would you leave them with?
Don't take yourself too seriously. Okay, just enjoy laughter, peace, harmony, and love. Remember those 4 words: peace, harmony, laughter, love. That's it.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to be with you.
If you want to see the one-on-one I did with Sadhguru, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Nobody can cause mental pain to you. It is you. In reaction to something that happens around you, it is time you take away the nonsense that's happening within you.